However, this time its target is no longer Fate's words, but Fengshe, who has been standing silently on the side. Just as the bird-like monster approached, Fengshe quickly wielded the long sword in his hand. A cold light flashed. He performed a cleave, chopping at the wings of the bird-like monster, sending it flying with one strike. The bird-like monster, with its wings chopped off, flew straight towards Fate's words. Fate's words, who had just struggled to get up from the ground, stood stunned in place. She quickly came to her senses and threw herself to the side, narrowly avoiding the impact of the bird-like monster. If she had been hit, with her already low HP, she would have surely perished on the spot. Fengshe slowly turned to Fate's words and said, "Piece of cake." Fate's words, looking at the corpse of the bird-like monster beside him, couldn't help but feel a bit speechless. Then, she shouted incredulously, "What are you so proud of? You just got lucky to cut off its wings." Just then, swooping down from high above, another bird-like monster dubbed with a whoosh. Its talons raced downward towards Fate's words. Fate's words reacted quickly. She swiftly rolled to the side. However, the terrifying talons of the bird-like monster. The talons tore apart the ground in the moment they touched down. In the next moment, Fengshe with an agility of 40 points flashed over. The sword once again struck the wings of the bird-like monster, tearing it to shreds instantly. The bird-like monster immediately turned into a dead bird, falling heavily to the ground. It exploded into a few copper and some light feathers. Fate's words suddenly stood still in disbelief, with a shocked expression on his face. Fengshe slowly sheathed his swords, looking down at her. The disdain in his eyes spoke volumes without saying a word. Fengshe, whose strength was being doubted, casually swung his sword and instantly killed the bird-like monster. Fate's words, who looked down on Fengshe, suddenly stood still in place. She looked incredulous. Just now, they all thought that Fengshe was just an ordinary blacksmith. In an instant, they were blown away on the spot. The strength displayed by Fengshe completely exceeded their understanding. Snowbite couldn't help but secretly ponder. This supernatural sword technique, I have only seen Darkblade perform it before. Is this black flame really just a blacksmith? Fengshe puts on the cloak again, then walks towards the destination while saying, "What are you standing there for? Pick up the loot and keep going." Luna Zhao looked at the bird-like monster scared off in the sky, and couldn't help but slightly grit her silver teeth, thinking about the terrifying injuries just now, and the extraordinary combat skills. Suddenly, she felt that she could not see through this black flame blacksmith anymore. She couldn't help but silently complain. "I won't be unlucky enough to encounter another Darkblade, right?" Fengshe and the others quickly arrived at Fallen Land, which turned out to be a huge pit. Inside the pit were caves and grottos everywhere. If one entered the caves, it would be very easy to get lost. In the depths of the deep pit, there are mechanical puppets roaming around. One is a common enemy, level 9, with 1,500 HP, equipped with a giant sword. There is also an elite monster, level 9, with 3,000 HP, a mechanical warrior wielding dual swords. The most terrifying is the elite monster, a special one, level 10, with 7,000 HP, riding a mechanical beast and wielding twin swords. Snowbite couldn't help but furrow her brows slightly. "What quest have you taken on? It seems like you need to deal with so many powerful monsters." Fengshe responded calmly. "We just need to complete a hidden quest to obtain the Heart of Titan." Snowbite looked at the densely packed monsters in the deep pit and said, "With each of us only at level 6, facing this group of level 9 and above monsters is almost like sending ourselves to death." She suddenly turned around and said, "For safety's sake, we can only take them down one by one. Luna, you are in charge of using magic to attract the aggro of the monsters and lure them in. Then the Protect Warrior will take over the aggro of the monster, and we can proceed to eliminate it." Luna Zhao nodded, indicating that she would go prepare now. Drawing aggro from a distance is the most effective. With her skills, even if the monsters are tightly clustered, she can attract at most 2 or 3 at a time, making it easy for the team to clear them out. However, at this moment, Feng Shi suddenly reached out and stopped Luna Xiao, who was about to draw aggro from the monsters. Luna Xiao immediately looked unhappy and said, "What are you doing? Don't you believe in my abilities?" Feng Shi ignored her nonsense and directly analyzed. The mobility of the mechanic class is usually stronger than that of the biology class. Without enough agility, you can't outrun others. Do any of you have an agility score exceeding 14 points? Little Aurora acutely expressed that she only has 4 points in agility. Luna Xiao pointed out that magic-based professions inherently have low agility. Only Snow Bai and Fate's words meet the agility requirements. After Feng Shi took out 2 acceleration scrolls, he said to Snow Bai, "You stack agility buff with Fate's words. Rely on high move speed. Lure all the outer mechanical monsters. Gather them in one place. Leave it to me to handle the rest." Snow Bai turned around lightly and said, "Black Flame, I believe in your strategy. It's just that I don't need this speed scroll because they can't catch up with me at all." As soon as the words fell, Snow Bai quickly sprinted towards the monsters. Before she could get close to the 30-yard range, the mechanical monsters' eyes were shining with red light. They all turned their heads and stared at the intruder. The man was determined to complete the newly acquired hidden quest. He actually asked 2 beautiful women to risk their lives and help him pull monsters. Snow Bai triggers an alarm as soon as she approaches the monsters. Alert! Intruders detected. At the same time, the mechanical puppet and mechanical warrior within a 40-yard radius have also been alerted. The surrounding mechanical monsters have all locked onto her. The same is true for Fate's words over there. The 2 of them are being chased closely by the mechanical legion. If it weren't for their high agility and timely dodging, they would probably be in big trouble by now. After the 2 of them attracted all the peripheral mechanical monsters, one on the left and one on the right, their techniques of pulling monsters were very skillful. Soon, the 2 waves of mechanical monsters merged into one wave. The mechanical puppet and mechanical warrior also marched mightily, relentlessly chasing after them. The number of mechanical puppets and mechanical warriors is extremely exaggerated. At a glance, there were over 800 of them. Among them, there are over 100 special elite mechanical knights. Everyone was shocked and broke out in a cold sweat at the sight. Luna Xiao couldn't help but be secretly amazed. How does she plan to deal with so many monster black flames? Just then, a sizzling sound suddenly came out. Feng Shi took out a map from the backpack. The exquisite scroll was glowing amidst the roaring flames. Then he immediately spread out the scroll. It was covered with incantations, and just revealing them caused the surrounding magic fire element to surge. Even a layperson could tell that this thing was not simple at all. Luna Xiao, as an elementalist, felt the surging fire element around her, then exclaimed in shock, "Such powerful magical energy!" Feng Shi activated the magic scroll and swiftly extracted the spell from the magic artifact Abyss Dweller scroll, revealing a scorching magic formation. Instantly, the surrounding fire element rapidly gathered, becoming extremely wild and violent. Suddenly, the fire element on the magic scroll poured out like mercury, with fiery serpents drilling into the Abyss Dweller one by one. The sword of Abyss Dweller blossomed with dazzling flames. It instantly turned into a sword of flames, emitting a faint phoenix cry that reverberated all around. At this moment, Snow Bai and the other person had already led all the mechanical monsters to the center and ran towards Feng Shi. The mechanical monsters were getting closer and closer, but Feng Shi showed no sign of movement, simply standing still. The sword in his hand burned brightly, dazzlingly. Just as Snow Bai and the other person passed by Feng Shi suddenly made a move. The flaming sword in his hand was raised high, as he shouted out, "Second rank magic flowing blade fire dance." In the blink of an eye, he suddenly floated in midair, surrounded by countless huge fireballs infused with raging fire elemental energy. These terrifying fireballs, each more powerful than Luna Xiao's strongest skill, flame dragon's roar. Then Feng Shi suddenly moved. With a fierce swing of his flaming sword, the huge fireballs floating in the air all began to fall. In the blink of an eye, the deafening roar continued without end. Like a meteor shower, the huge fireballs, upon hitting the ground, immediately burst into countless crimson flames. The scorching flames, like a vast sea, instantly engulfed the entire mechanical legion. Mechanical Knight with high intelligence. It immediately sensed that the situation was not good. It was somewhat horrified by this terrifying magic. Even the Mechanical Knight with an HP of up to 7,000 couldn't withstand the damage from this move. All turned into a pile of scrap metal. The entire second-rank magic has not ended. The bombing is still ongoing, turning everything within a cone-shaped area of 60 yards in front of Feng Shi into ashes. The aftermath of the second-rank magic has affected even those watching from a distance. Fate's words was directly lifted into the air. Snowby is resisting the impact of the aftermath, while secretly feeling alarmed. Such a powerful power. Facing a swarm of hundreds of mechanical monsters attacking, Feng Shi remains calm and composed. Second-rank magic scroll, flowing blade fire dance. Directly in front of him, within a cone radius of 60 yards. Everything in that area is burned to ashes. In no time, the roaring sound of flowing blade fire dance abruptly ceased. The smoke also started to slowly dissipate. The entire area no longer has any living monsters. The ground around Feng Shi is littered with drops from the deceased mechanical monsters, in quantities that are maddeningly high. And Feng Shi's XP suddenly increased by a large margin, directly leveling up to level 6, 37%. Others have also broken through from level 5 to level 6 with an exhilarating speed. And the highest level players, Snowby and 2 others, have directly surged to level 7. Immediately everyone began to collect the dropped items. Feng Shi, who is wealthy and outspoken, casually swept his eyes around and said, "The equipment dropped is far below the standard of what I forge. If you need it, just pick it up yourselves." Snowby looked somewhat embarrassed as she glanced at Feng Shi. She had originally planned to slowly level up, but with your help, she instantly achieved her goal. "How should I thank you?" Feng Shi responded with a faint smile, saying, "Don't thank me. Being able to safely make it here, you have also helped a lot." Snowby said somewhat regretfully, "It's a pity that the risks of further exploration are a bit too much for our team. The rest of the way, you will have to walk alone." After Feng Shi took out a few scrolls, he said to Snowby, "It's okay. Helping to lure the monsters has already helped me a lot. Take these scrolls back to the city. You can return faster." Luna Xiao suddenly smiled and said, "Big Brother Black Flame, we are going to the level 5 team dungeon tomorrow. Why don't you join us?" Snowby also chimed in quickly. "Indeed, with Black Flame around, the chances of clearing the level 5 team dungeon will be even higher." Feng Shi, however, very cheekily turned around and directly refused, saying, "I am very busy. Let's talk about it next time." Luna Xiao couldn't help but sigh. She never expected her warm invitation to be rejected. Snowby, on the other hand, stared at Feng Shi's back and muttered to herself, "He truly lives up to the name Black Flame Blacksmith." Just then, a sound of ding suddenly came. A friend request from Scarlet Flame Flowing Moon appeared in front of Feng Shi. He couldn't help but feel somewhat surprised. He didn't think much about it afterward. He directly clicked the reject button. Adding too many friends could easily give something away. He didn't want others to know that Black Flame and Darkblade are the same person. Suddenly, Feng Shi heard Luna Xiao's roar behind him. How dare he reject me? Feng Shi couldn't help but secretly complain upon hearing the voice. Has he become angry out of embarrassment again? Truly worthy of being the Scarlet Flame Sorceress. Feng Shi then quickly walked towards the iron gate. He stopped in front of the tightly closed gate and began to size it up. Next, he found an old platform and inserted the broken obsidian crystal given by Blackbeard into the keyhole inside. The fortress key has been stored for nearly 1,000 years. Blackbeard also mentioned that it may not necessarily open the gates. Feng Shi turned the key in his hand nervously. Suddenly, the keyhole of the steel gate appeared. The keyhole emitted a dazzling light. On the high platform, countless energy runes began to flicker. A mysterious magic array suddenly emerged. Then two large doors slowly opened, making a creaking sound. Opened a gap big enough for one person to pass through. A few mechanical monsters lingering in the distance immediately sensed Fengshi's presence the moment the gate was opened. All surviving monsters instantly locked onto Fengshi's position and began charging rapidly toward him, the intruder. Seeing that a group of mechanical monsters was approaching, Fengshi didn't hesitate. He immediately pulled out the key without saying a word. The gate instantly stopped moving. Then, he turned around and slipped into the crack of the door. At the moment Fengshi entered the gate, the system prompt sounded. Steel Shell Fortress Borussia was discovered. With the help of the Snowbite team, Fengshi successfully entered the Steel Shell Fortress Borussia. Immediately after, the system popped up a prompt. Borussia Level 11 Quest updated. Search for Steel Heart in Borussia. Fengshi realized that he had come to the right place. He proceeded cautiously along the way. In the tunnel constructed of steel, rust stains were visible everywhere, with sporadic flickers of light. It was barely enough to see the path clearly. He walked a long way but found no danger, only occasionally hearing dripping water and the roaring sound of machinery in operation. After thousands of years, most of the equipment could still function properly, demonstrating the high level of technology in the dwarven civilization. After passing through the corridor, he arrived at a huge furnace area. Steel frame stairs connected to the steel walls around. Under the burning furnace is a deep pool of bottomless water. Fengshi did not walk along the steps towards another exit. Instead, he leaped down and jumped into the pool. During the descent, he quickly activated gravity release. Instantly, his speed dropped sharply. He descended slowly like a feather. While falling, Fengshi suddenly saw a passage on the steel wall that could barely accommodate one person going in and out. This was not mentioned in the data from the previous life. Curiously, he floated over slowly. Soon, he landed at the entrance of the hidden passage. And not far away, there was a large iron box made of steel. There were many intricate runes carved on top, indicating it was not simple. Fengshi immediately recognized that this was a mystic iron rank treasure chest. He couldn't help but smile faintly. There was actually a treasure chest here. Did the people in the previous life not notice it? However, he did not rush over to open the treasure chest. Instead, he used illusionary strike to send a clone over to take a look. However, just as the clone opened the treasure chest, suddenly, there was a click sound. Right above the treasure chest, a skull-shaped pattern suddenly appeared, accompanied by a continuous gurgling sound. In the blink of an eye, that eerie pattern violently exploded. The clone that didn't have time to dodge was immediately hit in the face by the explosion. After the explosion, the clone slowly fell back. Thick black smoke continued to billow from its mouth. The clone was instantly taken out by this wave of explosion. Soon, the clone with 0 HP began to slowly dissipate, leaving only smoke billowing on the floor. Watching Fengshi being bombed from a distance, he was instantly covered in cold sweat. However, the treasure chest was also opened by the clone. Fengshi finally breathed a sigh of relief. He walked slowly towards the treasure chest, muttering to himself. Fortunately, he had developed the habit of being cautious and meticulous in his actions. Otherwise, it would not have been the clone that got taken out. The items inside the treasure chest don't seem to be few. What caught the eye was a pitch-black shield and several scrolls. Mystic Iron Rank Black Stone Shield requires 25 points of strength. The item's defense rate is 29% at level 10. It provides plus 7 strength, plus 10 stamina, and plus 200 HP. Upon equipping, all incoming positive damage is reduced by 10%. Fengshi was very satisfied after looking at the stats. This is definitely a top-notch level 10 shield. Equipping it to cope will make dungeon runs a lot easier. Also, there is a random mastery dice that when rolled, will grant the corresponding mastery attribute. This is definitely a favorite for gambling enthusiasts. Back in the day, many people spent a fortune acquiring this item. It is several times rarer than the Blackstone Shield because mastery points are permanent. However, Fengshe is not short of money now. He prayed slightly, and then directly threw the mastery dice to the ground, planning to take a gamble himself to see what would happen. Soon, the dice slowly came to a stop, and the side with the number 20 was facing upright towards the top. The system then popped up with a prompt. Achieve the achievement of Gambling Animal. Rolled a 20. Points doubled. Obtained one-hand sword mastery plus 40. Fengshe couldn't help but watch as his hands entered a state of ecstasy. Luck was truly unstoppable once it arrived. The 40 mastery points instantly boosted him from a novice to an intermediate swordsman level. Being an intermediate swordsman gave him 5% more base damage than a novice swordsman. This base damage would be greatly amplified after skill bonuses. Next were 3 scrolls: Fire, Frost, and Lightning resistant scrolls, each capable of reducing damage by 50% from their respective elements. Fengshe quickly pocketed the scrolls. These were all life-saving items that must be accepted and appreciated. At that moment, a siren suddenly sounded. He immediately realized that the fortress alarm was going off. The man used the trial helmet to grind for days and nights. And now the trial time is over. He finally reached the offline moment. Just now, the gambling expert Fengshe's luck burst out. He gained 40 mastery points and directly advanced to intermediate swordsman level. He didn't have time to be happy. A sudden urgent alarm sound suddenly sounded. The loud alarm sound instantly made Fengshe calm down. He did not expect this move, but he knew it was not safe to stay here for long. He quickly turned around and started running. Fengshe didn't even think about it. He drank the whole bottle in one go. A water-breathing potion that allows players to breathe underwater for 20 minutes. He then jumped straight into the pool below. The next moment, a splash was heard. Fengshe fell directly into the pool and quickly swam towards the depths. After swimming for more than 10 minutes, he finally saw a dark passage. Despite the swift current, he managed to swim to the other side of the passage with great difficulty. Soon, Fengshe surfaced. He happened to reach another pool within the duration of the underwater breathing potion. This is the core area of Steel Shell Fortress Purusha, a level 12 zone. At the same time, a system prompt suddenly sounded. Your VR headset trial time is about to end. Fengshe couldn't help but complain. Finally made it here, only for the trial to end. However, he also knew that finding the Heart of Titan was not something that could be accomplished quickly. So he directly accessed the system menu and chose to log out. At the same time as choosing to log out, he suddenly revealed a smile. Well, he had earned quite a lot of credits these days. He decided to log out and upgrade his equipment. At the same time, laughter could be heard coming from an old dormitory building on the school campus. The blonde man looked down at Kuriko and laughed. Didn't you say you were a gaming expert? I've been waiting for you at Shadow's studio for several days. Why haven't I seen you? Kuriko replied softly. Wu, as I've already told you, I joined another studio. That's why I didn't go for the assessment at Shadow. Wu couldn't help but furrow his brows in suspicion and asked, Kuriko, don't lie to me. There are no other studios in the entire Golden Sea University. What's its name? Kuriko was suddenly at a loss for words when asked. He just realized that Fengshe had not told him the name of the studio. As for the number of people, it seemed like it was just the 2 of them at most. They didn't even have the equipment to play the realm. It could be said that they were penniless. Seeing Kuriko remain silent, Wu continued smugly. No need to hide it from me. I know you didn't pass Shadow's assessment. If it doesn't work out, bro, I can put in a good word for you to be an external member. When Wu saw Kuriko's gaming headset, he pretended to be even more surprised and exclaimed, No way. The gaming headset you're using now is still a promotional trial headset. Is your studio even functioning properly? He then smugly patted Kuriko's head and said with a smile, Join the Shadow backup team, and you'll be given an official version headset. The main members are even equipped with a low-latency headset worth 2 credits from both sides. Isn't that awesome? Seeing Kuriko remain silent, Ian-woo immediately beamed with joy. He continued to mock. I'm serious. You must have been deceived by that unscrupulous boss of yours. Just then, the room door was suddenly pushed open. At the same time, Fengsher's voice could be heard. I am the one who established the studio, just like a cat or dog. Fengsher's icy gaze then fell upon the rugged and burly Ian-woo, speaking in a cold tone. Do you have any objections? Fengsher unexpectedly found Kuriko poached by Shadow Guide's little gag-gas. He looked at the humiliated Kuriko. Fengsher directly stated that he is Kuriko's boss. Ian-woo was taken aback when he saw Fengsher walk in. He sized Fengsher up, noticing he was dressed in cheap sportswear, and concluded that Fengsher was not from a wealthy family. Disdain reflected in his eyes. Feng, huh? I didn't know Golden Sea University had someone like you. Ian-woo burst into laughter right away. Indeed, everyone thinks they can open a studio nowadays, not even considering their own capabilities. It's as if opening a studio is just a casual matter. Don't make me laugh. Someone who can't even afford a helmet is dreaming of opening a studio. He then continued to poke Fengsher's head with his fingers mockingly. Do you know how big our Shadow studio is? Do you know who is in charge of the back end in our studio? Do you know how much investment our studio has? We still need to poach from that insignificant studio of yours. Next moment, Fengsher suddenly reached out his hand. With a snap, he tightly grabbed that annoying finger, immediately followed by a clicking sound. Ian-woo immediately squatted down and howled in agony. Fuck. It's broken. Fengsher, on the other hand, looked down from above and said coldly, Do you know my identity now? Fengsher then gave Kuriko a reassuring look. He smiled lightly and said, Kuriko, the items have arrived. He gestured for the deliverman outside the door to bring in the items. When Kuriko saw the items in the deliverman's hands, she immediately exclaimed, It's the latest Phantom 2100 PR0 helmet from the realm, along with a matching neural conductive accelerator suit. Kuriko exclaimed joyfully with a big smile. Oh, this is too luxurious. Fengsher, however, did not explain much. He turned to the deliverman and said, Also, change the dormitory network to a special ultra-low latency network. Just then, behind Fengsher, Ian-woo's cursing could be heard. Damn it! Are you showing off in the dormitory just because you are a loser? He quickly got up and yelled angrily at Fengsher. You think you're great just because you have money. Be careful, I'll tell our boss Shadow. And Kuriko sneered at this incompetence and anger. He threw his arm around Fengsher's shoulder and laughed heartily. Shadow is just a little brother in front of the body-devouring serpent. Feng in my family is someone that Snowbye from the body-devouring serpent is interested in. Ian-woo couldn't help but be shocked when he heard that. As someone capable of joining Shadow as an official member, he naturally knew what the body-devouring serpent represented. That's a top-tier guide in the gaming world. Ian-woo naturally didn't believe Kuriko's words. He yelled stubbornly at Fengsher, who was walking away. Just talk big. What's so great about you? You're so amazing. Why haven't you joined the body-devouring serpent? Otherwise, what would you be doing out here playing the role of a studio boss? But Feng acted as if he hadn't heard anything. These little gags couldn't catch his attention. After all, he used to be the president of Shadow in his past life. Ian-woo saw that Feng remained silent and was about to leave. He gritted his teeth and quickly asked, Tell me, what's the name of your studio? Ian-woo from Shadow Guide arrogantly came to poach Kuriko, but he suffered a severe finger injury from Fengsher's forceful intervention. Realizing that he was no match for Fengsher, Ian-woo quickly inquired about the name of his studio. Fengsher then stopped in his tracks, turned to Ian-woo, and said indifferently, The name of the studio is Zero Wings, which means the soaring wings that start from scratch. If you have nothing else, please leave. Tell your boss to stop trying to poach members from other studios. It's better to take care of their own business properly, so things don't fall apart one day. The scene changes. In a finely decorated office, a muscular man with thick eyebrows sits in an office chair. Ian Wu, with his finger bandaged, stands nervously in front of the desk and whispers, "Brother Zhang, things are almost taken care of." Louis Zhang is the second most important figure in Shadow Guide. In Shadow, apart from Harrison Lon, Louis Zhang holds the greatest power and influence. Hearing this, Louis Zhang immediately becomes displeased, throwing the documents in his hand and coldly saying, "What do you mean by almost?" Ian Wu thought for a moment, organized his words a bit, and said, "The others have already agreed. It's just that Kuriko is like a rock in a cesspool, stubborn and smelly. He refuses to come no matter what. He joined Zero Wing Studio that popped up in school a while back. He even said he disdains joining a trashy studio like Shadow." Louis Zhang smiled with a hint of playfulness, but there was a cold glint in his eyes. "What's the background of this Zero Wing Studio?" Ian Wu quickly reported that Zero Wing Studio was established by a senior student named Feng Shi. "I heard that the studio has nothing at the moment, not even gaming equipment, which they just bought today. He also asked me to pass on a message. Stop trying to poach members from other studios. Focus on managing your own territory." Louis Zhang furrowed his brows slightly, pondering where he had heard the name before. After thinking for a while, and still unable to recall, he couldn't help but ask with a slight frown, "How many people are currently in the Zero Wing Studio?" Ian Wu quickly replied, "There are only 6 people." Louis Zhang immediately burst into hearty laughter. Just a small studio with 6 people. You really take them seriously. Ian Wu, I advise you to focus your attention on the school's networking event this year. This is a great opportunity for our Shadow to make a breakthrough. There is no time to waste on these garbage studios. Right. You go organize the new recruits. Let them level up quickly. The various guides in the White River Castle area will start soon. We must compete for the honor of being the first to complete the 20-person team dungeon. We must seize the honor of being the first to complete the level 5 team dungeon. Your benefits will not be lacking when the time comes. Ian Wu couldn't help but express some dissatisfaction and said, "Brother Zhang, is that Feng Shi and his workshop? Are we just going to let them do as they please like this?" Beneath Louis Zhang's friendly appearance, he is actually ruthless. He gave a cold smile to indicate to Ian Wu not to worry. After a brief movement of his palm, he spoke out, "These are not problems. This man is invincible in the game. He was also once a leader of a guild. But in reality, he didn't even finish university. He was expelled from school. In the previous life, Feng Shi's university life, almost all of his energy was spent on games. So much so that he neglected his studies. Parents were also exhausted and seriously ill at this time. The family has incurred a lot of debt for medical treatment. Feng Shi has been given a chance to start over. He absolutely cannot repeat the same mistakes. He immediately transferred 10,000 credits to his parents using his phone. He claimed that the transferred amount was earned from a part-time job. He also reminded them to take preventive measures before their health deteriorates. This should help resolve the family crisis. And next, he needs to solve his academic issues. In the previous life, losing his degree certificate led to a series of events. Even though the degree certificate was of no use to him, he still wants to know the reason behind losing it. After Feng Shi finishes dealing with the matters at hand, he rushed to the classroom 401 of the school. As soon as he walked into the classroom, Feng Shi felt that the atmosphere in the class was a bit strange. His classmates all turned their eyes towards him. The expressions of everyone were quite surprised, as if something that shouldn't have appeared had shown up. The boys were very unhappy about his appearance. How could this person come? He usually skips classes. Yet today, he actually showed up. Who asked him to come? Another student named Little Gag Gas explained that it should be the monitor who notified him. I didn't expect him to really come. Some of the girls in the class, who were dressed up and had their hair done, threw looks of disgust towards him. He is just a low-achieving student in the class. Everyone finds him repugnant just by looking at him. Although these voices were very small, Fengshe still heard them. Or perhaps these people intentionally made him hear. He couldn't help but sigh with a bitter smile. Looking back now, living as a person in the last life was truly a failure. Everyone didn't like me at all. At this moment, a clear female voice suddenly interrupted his thoughts. Fengshe, you're finally here. The girl is the class monitor, Roxanne Zhao. The whole class dislikes Fengshe, except for one person. Back then, he was ostracized by the entire class, but Roxanne Zhao was the only one who didn't have any bias against him. Roxanne Zhao suddenly looked uneasy and said, "If something bad happens during the class meeting, make sure not to get into a conflict with Felix Lin." But Fengshe didn't say much. He is no longer a child. How could he be angry with these children? He now only cares about the issue of his diploma. At this moment, a burly figure suddenly appeared next to Roxanne Zhao. Roxanne Zhao and Fengshe couldn't help but look at him. The young man had a very strong body. His muscles looked full of explosive power. He was a towering 1.9 meters tall. He suddenly frowned at Fengshe and said, "Fengshe, what the hell are you doing here?" Fengshe didn't say anything, but just gave him a faint glance. He immediately recognized that the person was Felix Lin. Fengshe had a hunch that the matter of the degree certificate was most likely related to this person. In Fengshe's memory, Felix Lin was quite resourceful. The reason for saying he was resourceful is because after graduating from university, he successfully pursued a wealthy heiress from a major corporation and, within just 3 years, became the chairman of that corporation. Have you ever seen such a powerful antagonist? He got married to a wealthy and beautiful woman right after graduating from college. And he became a board member of the group in just 3 years. However, due to the increasing influence of the virtual world on the real world, Felix Lin invested almost all of his money in the realm. The two had collaborated in the realm before. Although Felix Lin helped Shadow make a lot of money, he made even more for himself. At the same time, he also cultivated many talented subordinates. Later, somehow, he managed to get close to another top guide and abandon Shadow. Fengshe couldn't help but secretly analyze. He was so sure that I wouldn't come to this class reunion, so he joined forces with others at this reunion to prevent me from continuing my studies. This was also the turning point in my last life that led my life into an abyss. After much deliberation, Fengshe coldly said, "I will hold the class reunion. Is that all right?" Upon hearing this, Felix Lin immediately showed a dissatisfied expression. He was the pride of the class. How dare this underachiever speak to him in such a tone? Immediately following, Felix Lin domineeringly spoke up. "There's no need for any class meeting. Let's get straight to the point. Everyone knows that I am passionate about martial arts competitions. My academic performance is not ideal. Therefore, I would like to ask everyone here to hand over your degree certificates to me. Let me graduate smoothly." The candidate for this position will be chosen by everyone's vote. What do you all think? The classmates stood up one after another with smirks on their faces and loudly expressed support for this proposal. Following that, Felix Lin looked smugly at Fengshe and said, "I have a nomination. Fengshe, since you don't come to school anyway, the degree certificate should be of no use to you." Upon hearing this, anger surged in Fengshe's heart. He thought he was foolish in his past life to have collaborated with Felix Lin. But in this lifetime, he wouldn't make the same mistake. If Felix Lin wanted to cause trouble for him, he wouldn't hold back. At this moment, various voices of approval were heard non-stop. "That's right. Whether Fengshe attends university or not makes no difference. Brother Felix is the fighting champion and contributes to the class's honor. The decision should be in favor of Brother Felix, so it's Fengshe." However, Fengshe showed a trace of a cold smile. This script is exactly the same as the one in the previous life. The reason I am here now is to prevent Felix Lin's conspiracy from succeeding and reshape my destiny. Roxanne Zhao, though a bit timid, still spoke up. "How can things be decided like this? Felix Lin immediately scolded her. Shut up! Who asked you? Feng Shi, this is a decision for the whole class. Do you agree? Feng Shi calmly replied without looking back. I do not agree. Suddenly, the whole class fell into silence. Nobody had expected Feng Shi, who was often bullied by students from other classes, to rebel. Felix Lin's reaction was too unusual. Next, Felix Lin's angry shout rang out. Say it again, mother asterisk asterisk asterisk. At the same time, Felix Lin raised his fist high and charged towards Feng Shi. However, Feng Shi remained unfazed, even revealing a mysterious smile. Next, a muffled sound of impact rang out. The charging Felix Lin was directly thrown over Feng Shi's shoulder with a swift move. He was slammed heavily onto the ground. The whole class was instantly stunned by this scene, unable to close their mouths. They never expected that slender and weak Feng Shi could defeat him with just one move. As the school's fighting champion, Felix Lin easily flipped him to the ground. Roxanne Zhao didn't react at all. She was shocked to look at the not-so-tall Feng Shi only after she opened her eyes. She was a bit strange. When did Feng Shi become so manly? Feng Shi's eyes were locked onto Felix Lin, with a sudden sense of killing intent spreading. Then came his cold voice. I said get lost, Felix Lin.